Yay!
Hey, hi.
Hi! Hi, Heidi. This is so
Hi, Phoenix.
well, I would love to just start this space by asking you to introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know you or your role at BPI. Anything you want to say about who you are and what you do at our school?
Yes. So thank you. My name is Heidi Zitcher, and I started working at BPI in 2015. And my original role was to start hosting church services. So that's sort of how I got started with BPI. And in addition to running church services for several years, I also ran a ministers program. During that time, though, um, I also began teaching animal communication. And so now my primary involvement with the Boulder Psychic Institute is teaching the animal communication courses.
Mm.
So, and those involve a 1 month kind of intro course open to everyone. Everyone's welcome. And it's just kind of an overview of kind of important tools to facilitate animal communication. And then if people enjoy that, then I teach a 6 month long animal communication program where there are prerequisites of the Animal Communication 101 program and 3 months of Boulder Psychic Institute's Enlightenment program.
Yay. Yes, I took animal communication with Heidi. It's absolutely amazing. Um, I'm curious, Heidi, is there anything you want to say around uh, kind of the unique perspective that the animal communication program offers, or like what you love about that particular line of psychic work?
um, yes. So I kind of want to go a little bit kind of backwards on that question. Originally, when I started doing professional psychic work in 1999, and my main thing I was doing readings on people and helping with animals, but the main capacity that I was working in for several years were house healings. And one of the things that becomes very obvious when you do a lot of house healing work is the significance of the dynamics of multiple beings, whether they're human or non human, or past or present, or just there's a whole mix of energies that come into play in a house healing.
Mm.
So when I began the animal communication program at the Boulder Psychic Institute, most of the animals that we read and that the students read are animal companions with people. So
Mm.
I wanted to create this focus of the relationship between the non-human animal and the human, to show what that dynamic is like. We do also go into if there are multiple people in a household or multiple, um, non-human animal companions in the household. We do start to look at those dynamics, how they play out, how you can read relationships, and how you can read kind of the way in which people's energy systems affect the communication and the relationship with specific others, but also in the whole dynamic, in the whole mix. So, in the animal communication program, it's sort of a nuanced program that goes into how to look specifically at an individual non-human animal, but also then how to look at the dynamics that are impacting the relationships in a household.
Mm. I've really found that, like, as someone who took the program and also now does, animal readings for people, like, I feel like something I really learned from that program and what you're saying and what I continue to see in my readings is just that particular style and emphasis or focus of those readings really leads me to see all this like interconnection. It's like the interconnectedness between all of the beings, interacting in this space. So I
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, saw that and experienced that for sure.
I think as a reader too, when you're looking at that, it helps you just be a little bit more conscious about the energy you're bringing to your relationships and kind of the dynamics you're in, and how much of that is a part of kind of what you're bringing. So there's a there is a different level of self-awareness. Like obviously the other programs where people are working on themselves gives a lot of self-awareness, but the animal communication program offers the self-awareness of dynamics and relationships and interplay and you know
Ooh, it's
kind of.
juicy. Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
It's like it's juicy, the interplay.
Yeah, it's juicy. It is juicy. Exactly. Yeah. It enables the readers to look at pictures that they aren't going to see just in a discrete individual.
Wow, I love that. Aw. Um, my mind kind of wandered to uh the like a question for you if you want to answer it around like how did you get into psychic work in general? Because you kind of went there a little bit, 1999, I think you said, but kind of what was that like for you?
um, so most people, my what I've observed is that most people who come into psychic work um, come into it after having explored lots of different modalities.
Mhm.
And for me, I had been meditating a long time before I started kind of psychic courses and learning how to work directly with energies. Um, my first experience of meditating came as I think I was 14 and I was taking martial arts classes, and of course meditation's part of that, and we were working with chi and mindfulness, um and then I got involved in the do you know A Course in Miracles? Do you know that whole
Yeah.
thing?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so when I was 15, I started studying A Course in Miracles. I studied it for, I don't know, 10 years and was doing that practice for a very long time. And that practice is very focused and centered on forgiveness.
Mm.
And I was kind of bumping my head against a wall, like, okay, I'm on board. I'm on board in my mind, in my mental body with forgiveness. I'm like, okay, forgiveness sounds good, but I don't know how to forgive. Like I'm mad at all these people, and all these there's all these jerks, and how the heck am I supposed to just forgive all these people?
Mm.
And so um I ran into a friend at a fair who was doing psychic work, and she invited me basically to receive healings at a psychic school. So I went to the psychic school. I started getting healings, and I was like, "Ah, oh, this feels so good. This is so nice." And they were like, "Why don't you take classes?" And it had never occurred to me that I could do that. I was like, "Oh," and so I started the courses, and I realized this is the practical application of all of this, theory. Um, yeah, right, that I had been looking at and I had been working with, and I was on board in my mind, like, yes, I want to love, I want to forgive, I want to, be a light on the planet, but I just didn't, I didn't know how to work with that. And when I started taking classes at the psychic school, I realized, oh, I can move the energy. I can work with my space. I can release old grudges. I can update my information. I can bring myself into present time. I can, spin off the karma. I can recognize when I'm bumping into the karma. I can step back when I'm activated. I can, it just brought me a practical way to actually embody these ideas that I was on board with, but I didn't know how to actually embody in my body.
Wow. I I love that. I love that description of that journey from like the mental, like I want this mentally, I want to forgive, I want to love, then into talking about the psychic work is really like how I was hearing you talk about it is like being really the embodiment of that the real kind of like I think you used the word practical, where it's like that
Yes.
gets to really land, which is funny because I feel like a lot of people have this maybe picture or misconception about psychicness that it's all like, and it can be very like out of the body, or like,
A lot of spiritual work, though, is like that.
yeah,
And that's where I actually became frustrated with the Course in Miracles because everyone was like, we're
yeah,
so happy and it's so good. And I was like, wait, no, I'm mad at people. I don't know why you're so happy, but and it was just like this deer in the headlights, like,
yeah.
and there was no permission for
Mm.
everything else. And um I'm very much aligned with the idea of authenticity. And so I kept bumping into this, I want to call it make believe, where people were pretending to be what, divine,
Forgiving. Yeah.
yeah, forgiving, yeah, whatever it is. And I was like, wait, this is not it, because
Mm.
I'm like, God is not so petty that if you're like pissed off at someone that you have to like go, like, that's not what God's looking for. So I was like, I just, that was not, I just hit a wall with that kind of practice. And what I love about the psychic work is it is authentic.
Yeah.
You can't fake what you're working on. um I mean, you can try, I guess. But but ultimately the idea of psychic work, and one of the misconceptions, like you were talking about, one of the misconceptions of psychic work is that maybe it is all of this happy joy, but the truth of it is it's looking to see what is true, and
Mm.
it's looking to see where someone's maybe stuck in a lie, and what the truth would look like for that person. And it's getting curious about the person's lived experience, or in the case of animal communication, what's it like to be a
Mm.
non-human animal companion in a household? What's it like to be in those relationships? How does the interplay within the household impact the people and the non-human animals who are living in that dynamic? And how do we shift that dynamic in a way that makes everyone happier? So um so yeah, I found for me, the psychic work has been very much about getting clear about where where there are iterative patterns, where there is energy that's stuck, where there are, um, you know, beliefs that don't serve me, that somehow I bought into, often, in childhood or even in past lives, and how to actually clear that and move through that rather than just continue to get caught in those loops.
Mm. Beautifully said. Yeah. Aw. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I wanna were you gonna say something?
Mm. No, I'm good. I'm wondering if that's your experience too, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yes, definitely. Well, I love what I loved about the journey that you detailed from like the intellectual into the psychic space really resonated with me because that's definitely been my experience of like, yeah, having these ideas even just like about how I want to feel or like what I want my life to be or how I want to approach spirituality. And then to me, the psychic work has very much taken that and like allowed me to bring that into my body, like not just be in an intellectual space, but be able to be in a spiritual space and then also be connected to the physical, you know?
Yes.
um, and I just love what you said there too around like I've had some people reflect to me around psychic work of like, oh, that's like shadow work, like you're like you're like dealing with your shadows. And um to some degree I see that to be true. It's kind of like bringing light to the darkness, uh,
Mhm.
and really yeah. I really resonate and experience psychic work to be very much about that honesty and that authenticity and that vulnerability. And it's like, what's real, you know, versus
Yes.
what's a fantasy, what's not, what's pretend, right? Like what you were saying, like, oh, yeah, I'm happy all the time. That's not even a thing. That's a lie. Yeah, to be happy all the
Yes.
and there are a lot of spiritual spaces that I feel like are kind of just fueled by those types of lies, like that kind of perfection energy of like, gotta be happy all the time. Yeah. Love and light.
The other thing about that is there's often a dismissal of the body
Yes.
where, oh, if you're sick, there's something wrong with you with God.
Yep.
You're sick, there's nothing wrong with you with God. That just means you have a body. Your body's talking to you. You can go in and start looking at what's happening in that space. But in a lot of spiritual traditions, there's just been a lot of um, kind of negativity towards the embodied experience on this planet, which um, my own perspective on that is that the embodied experience on this planet is a real gift. And yeah, it's nice to have some gratitude for the time and the space and the embodiment to try things, to explore things, to see what works and what doesn't, you know. So that's another piece of the happy all the time is also like, and I'm spirit all the time without a physical experience. But we're here having a physical experience, so we might as well take a look at our physical experience rather than try to get away from our physical experience. Yeah.
Totally. That's such a good point and such a deep and juicy point around that of just the like denial of being human. And it's interesting, right? Because it's like, yeah, I created this body. Why am I trying to get away from the experience that I created so much and move on to the next thing already? It's like just having this experience, this lifetime. And also, what I heard and what you said of kind of just seeing it as this experiment, right? Where I'm learning and growing and kind of really just kind of settle into and be curious and have and own what I'm learning and growing this lifetime.
Exactly. I agree.
It's so much more fun when you approach life as an experiment rather than something to get away from. Yeah.
Yes.
Aw. Well, I'd love to ask you another question here around um Yeah, like what is your favorite tool right now, and kind of what's alive for you around your own practice, your own psychic practice? You know, you've been doing this work for many years and using these tools for many years. Kind of what sort of insight or insights do you want to offer around your working with your tools right now, and kind of what might be up for you around that?
Yes. So what I've noticed with working with the psychic tools in general is that it is this process as we, grow and expand. We do bump into pain points. So there is, I mean, I think this speaks to what your comment about people saying, oh, you're doing shadow work. And I was like, well, because you do bump into the shadow aspects of yourself, but you also bump into the true aspects of yourself, the inspirational aspects of yourself, and the aspirational aspects of yourself. So it's not focused on the pain points, but you will bump into the pain points as you're kind of working your space and moving moving through the energy. So in that process, I had a friend who used to say, gain your space, lose your space, gain your space, lose your space.
Yeah.
So for people who are not involved in the psychic journey, part of what you learn in psychic courses is how to recenter, rebalance your space generally, how to tap into what's you and what's not you, how to release the what's not you and embody more of what is you. And in that process, as I said, there will be things that that activate you. So, you get and when you're like that, you're not grounded and present and centered. And so there is this process of gaining your space and losing your space and gaining your space and losing your space. And we can do that in a couple of ways. We can um like some people say, okay, I'm going to make these changes in my life to benefit my health. So I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to go for a walk every day, or I'm going to sleep. I'm going to focus on my sleep and getting good sleep, or whatever it is. And when we make those changes, of course we bump into what's the reason we're not sleeping, or the reason we haven't been walking, or what's keeping us from drinking the water. And so we clear that energy, and in that way we grow. And sometimes when we bump into the reasons we're not doing these things, we get we hit that. And so that's kind of a gentle growth process that we can undertake. um, I want to say voluntarily or consciously or intentionally. Sometimes we also encounter growth processes that we don't undertake consciously or intentionally. Like, someone hits our car, or someone, robs our house, or someone lies to us, or someone, all kinds of. My joke is, if you want to know kind of what you're processing, just read a history book, because it's all there. Humans have done all kinds of things. And the more you study history, the more you see the kinds of things that have happened. And probably you're handling some of that sort of energy and patterning in your own space. And with that kind of experience, we sometimes we will get activated in a way that's very manageable. Sometimes we will get activated in a way where we just can't get ourselves out of it. We need a friend. We're like, can you help me with this, because I'm really struggling. Sometimes um it affects lots of areas of our life. And so, what I have been working on is actually, it's interesting. We started off talking about the animal communication and the dynamics and the relationships. And what I've been working on in myself recently is the dynamic and the communication between the various chakras.
Mm.
Um, about 4.5 years ago, I was widowed, and that was due to an accident. So it was sudden, and it was, I mean, it was considered a violent crime. I mean, it was just not good. And that pretty much kind of collapsed my entire chakra system. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to drink more water. It was more like, oh my goodness, what just happened?
Mm.
And in that experience, I I realized one of the ways in which I could, um, I'll say, recover and heal in that was by rebalancing, recultivating my chakra system. So that took me within and taught me a lot about the various chakras. And I'm really finding that to be, you were talking about rich and juicy, fertile ground. I'm really finding that to be rich, juicy, fertile ground, because what I'm noticing is that the various chakras relate fairly directly to different aspects of our lives. And the energy that we run when we're anchoring ourselves as spiritual beings into our physical experience, our embodied experience, we're running energy through the entire chakra system. So when energy is stuck in one chakra or another chakra, or hopefully not all the chakras, but when that happens, things like, you might hear people who say, oh, I just feel stuck. I'm totally stuck, or I'm lost, or I don't even know who I am, or and these sorts of sentiments often are accompanied by some traumatic event, some kind of, big thing that happens. And the person, basically, the I don't know who I am and I'm stuck, comes from not being able to get into, you know, maybe not any of the body, maybe not some of the body. It comes with that relationship that we have to our physical beingness. And so, um, for people who are not familiar with the chakra system, I just want to quickly kind of go through the chakras. There are multiple chakras in our body that are just energy centers that just enable us to basically connect in with our body. I mean, you might think of the difference between someone who's alive and someone who's not alive, and what that body is like. So that animating, spiritual force processes and connects through these chakra systems. But so there are lots in the body. But the main chakras, when people talk about the main chakras, the first is at the base of the spine, the second is right below the belly button, the third is in the solar plexus, the fourth is in the heart space, the fifth is in the throat, the sixth is the third eye, and the seventh is the crown. And if you go through that first chakra relates to your physical well being and your connection to the planet, to that embodiment. That second chakra is like your inner child and your emotional self. That third chakra is your dreams, your path forward, where you want to go. Sometimes I call it where the rubber meets the road, because it's like, make it happen, your willpower, you're moving ahead. That fourth chakra is your values, how you see yourself, what motivates you, what gets you really excited in your life. That fifth chakra is your expression. It can be verbal expression, but it can also be artistic expression. It can be movement, it can be painting, it can be singing, it can be, you know, however you express in the world. That sixth chakra is seeing, but it's also visioning. So you're seeing what is and you're visioning what could be. And that seventh chakra is your own knowingness. It's your own connection to yourself and spirit. It's kind of your own spiritual guidance. And so at the psychic center, we're really focused on cultivating this sixth chakra and this seventh chakra. But the thing about it is, you're wanting all of the chakras running energy. You're wanting to process on all these levels. And as I've been working with the chakra system, I've been really appreciating people who go into whatever field they go into. I think of that Malcolm, I think it was Malcolm Gladstone or whatever his name is, who said, in order to be an expert, you need to do 10,000 hours in whatever area. Well, that if you want to do 10,000 hours in the earth, our connection to the earth, or 10,000 hours in how our emotions are cultivated and developed and relate to the rest of us, or how we problem solve, or values and motivations, or visioning, of the beautiful world, or, connecting to your own kind of divine inspiration, it's going to be lifetimes. There's lifetimes of cultivation involved in that. And so I've just been really appreciating all the people who are experts in these different areas who can help us, because one lifetime is a long time, but not that long. And we work on what we work on during our lifetime. And my own experience is that studying psychic work helps to accelerate that learning and that processing. And for me, it's helped me move through kind of a lot of learnings. I feel way more quickly than I would have had I not been doing this work. However, one lifetime is not going to be the be all end all. So, working with recognizing kind of your strengths and your weaknesses, the chakras that are really well developed and the chakras that you're developing, kind of the practices and the professions that are aligned with the chakras that are your strengths, and the activities and the professions that are aligned with the chakras where you're still kind of getting your sea legs. To me, that's been very helpful, because I know kind of, who to reach out to and what to look into. And in working with the chakra system, rebalancing the chakra system, I can see and notice where things are stuck. I mean, it's that regular psychic process of seeing what's there and, clearing out what I don't want or what no longer serves me, and bringing in the energy I like, and allowing that growth process to come from my own intentional practice, rather than feeling, I mean, we're all kind of pushed around by the world, because here we are. But what we can do in our physical experience is recognize, am I centered? Am I grounded? Is my energy running through my chakra system? Are my chakras clean and clear? Are things harmonized? What's the dynamic? Is one, like, sometimes we get energy in our space that says we should be doing one thing, but our passion is something else. When that happens, often the should energy is in that third chakra of doing, and the passion energies in our heart space. And those two spaces might not be aligned then. They might be in conflict. I should be doing this. I want to do this. I should be doing this. I want to do this. Looking at how to bring things into alignment, how to harmonize, how to have the chakras working together in an authentic expression of yourself. That's what I've been looking at. That's what I've been working with. And that's what I have found really helpful in my own healing process. And I also want to say, kind of an empowerment process, because it's something any of us can do, even if you're not familiar with psychic work. Just look up a picture online of a chakra and just imagine that picture and, start working with the energies and the strengths of that chakra, just like you would with a crystal. Like, you might not know a lot about crystals, but you can look them up and which one you're drawn to. And you can, just start working with it. You can do the same thing with your chakra system. You don't have to have decades of training or, all of that. You can just start working with it yourself. And I have found that to just be a very empowering way to rebuild my space, recenter, reground, and come back to who I am, what I want, kind of what's meaningful to me, that sense of meaning, which can really be lost in a trauma. And so anyway, that's I don't know if that's one tool, but my tool would be the chakra system. And that's what I've been working with.
Aw, thank you so much, Heidi. That was so beautiful. Just such a generous offering of just I was just seeing rainbows the whole time you're talking. It's just like such beautiful wisdom. I feel like just poured from you there. And I was noticing as you were just so gently and lovingly kind of just taking, you know, taking me, us, whoever's listening through the chakra system. I was like even noticing in my own body, I was like saying hello to all my chakras, and then it was like, ooh, and I was feeling my own energy run more. And it was just like so delicious just to acknowledge that chakra system and how powerful that is for then that kind of spirit body harmonizing. Yeah. So thank you for that.
I did want to add one thing. There's kind of a general idea in psychic work that as long as you're opening your space,
Mm.
your life is improving. And it's when you start closing down your space that things get, things get whatever, stuck and, not so fun and cranky. And so, but in this process of opening one space, you're going to bump into stuff and you're going to lose your space. And this was one of those issues that I had with some of the spiritual practices I had been involved in before, with that happiness, with that constantly having to be happy, was there was no recognition of how growth works. And growth can be brutal. Growth can be brutal. And that's okay. The thing about that is to not get stuck in the brutal, to
Mm.
be like, okay, my chakras just got, you know, And so this is a time to be gentle with myself. This is a time of rejuvenation. This is a time of rebuilding. This is a time of restoration. And it might take some time, and that's okay. It's okay if things take time. That's why we have a body. The body gives us that time and that space to move through all of this stuff so that we can continue to grow as spiritual beings and open up the space, even when things happen that aren't happy joy. And there's nothing in the experience of things that are not happy joy that should lead us to feel unloved or not valuable.
Oh.
It's just a sign that you're growing.
Doesn't mean anything about you and your lovability. Yeah.
No, no. And
Oh,
we all bump into those things. That's life. That is life. That is the process of life. And if you're someone who's on a real committed spiritual path, you might bump into more of those things than someone, who's not on a diehard spiritual path. And it's just an opportunity to release a lot of stuff that wasn't serving you anyway, and to, rebuild, regenerate, come back with more space and, a little stronger.
oh. That is just I feel like such a positive and needed message. Yeah. And I just love that it's coming from your own lived experience, like you've really cultivated that. You can see that. Yeah.
Yep. Life. That's why life.
Yeah, and I just love how you spoke to that because I feel like I do see that a lot too of yeah, when I love that you spoke to in the beginning around the illness piece, right? Like I've seen that a lot in myself at times or like in, my psychic students where they're like something happens and then they just go into invalidation of themselves, right? Where it's like, oh, this must be my fault. I must have somehow done something wrong. Like, punishment, punishment, punishment. And I love that you're just offering like such a spacious and um, true, clear seeing message with regards to that type of dynamic. Yay.
Yay.
As we start to wrap up here, I'm curious, my last question for you, um, is just kind of like, is there um, any other wisdom that you want to offer to like specifically anyone who's on this psychic path, who's a psychic student at BPI, who's working on themselves. Yeah, like what would you say to kind of, a psychic student who's maybe like a year or two into uh, doing this type of work?
What I like to say is it's nice to have psychic friends because everyone bumps into things, and there can be an idea that you should be able to move through everything yourself without any help from anyone else. But the beauty of community is that we have others. And the BPI community is a lovely community. It's a great opportunity to meet other people who are using this same practice to move through their own patterning, their own kind of scars, if you will, um, and to come to that more authentic space. So, I mean, I really encourage people to reach out to other people in your classes, reach out to other people in the Boulder Psychic Institute community, maybe do trades, because we all have blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots, because we don't see them. And when we don't see them, we're not working on them. We're working on the things we're seeing. And someone else might be like, did you know this thing? And you'll be like, no, I don't know that thing at all. They're like, well, let me just do a little clearing on that. And then you're like, oh, often we see things. I mean, you probably know this, but a lot of the energies we work with they might even be in our bodies or kind of deep within our chakra system. And it's not until someone kind of energetically taps it that it starts to loosen up and it moves out, and then we see it, and then we're like, oh no, but we didn't even know it was there beforehand. And so get to know the other people at BPI, make some friends, and then if you need a hand, you can pick up the telephone. I know that's old school technology now. You can text someone. I don't know what people do. But whatever you do to kind of reach out and have those relationships, I would highly encourage and recommend that.
Oh, oh, I love that. I love that. Just offering. And yeah, I'll just speak for myself, like over the years being at BPI and cultivating friendships, and like how valuable, like how much I value my psychic friends, where we've seen each other through the growth periods for years. We've helped each other move through those blind spots, pointed things out, like really supported each other and seen each other on a soul level for years. I mean, that's just, it's such a special bond. And I just love that you highlighted that. It's so true. Like we do, it's very valuable to have relationships that can help you grow in that way.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
No. Right.